Hi, I'm Jennifer Carter, and thank you for joining me on a podcast for parents, teachers, and administrators. Today's conversation should be a good one, and I'm sure it's something on your mind. So let's get to it. All right, so thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Give like a quick introduction of who you are, what you do.
Yes, happy to do that. Thank you so much for having me on. My name is Jessica Handy. I am start by sharing that I'm a land steward. I've as a young kid developed a deep love for nature, for land, and that really was the catalyst, I would say, that got me to where I am today. So fast forward, I also wear the hat as a registered dietitian. So I started as a dietitian in my formal education, and that led me to develop a love for food systems, and really understanding how broken our system is. Had me want to contribute to healing our systems. And so I wanted to go beyond just sitting down with community and telling them what to eat, but really going deeper and helping people understand how to grow their own food, develop a deeper love for a holistic food system, getting out and getting our hands in the soil so that we can have an understanding about how food is grown, from planting the seed all the way to harvest. And I find in my journey and over a decade and a half now of being in this industry, that it has a greater impact on a lifelong, I would say, shift that, when people really have a deeper understanding about food, as opposed to going to the grocery store, buying the broccoli, buying the apples, when you have an opportunity to really see and connect to where the food comes from and what goes into growing food, and then being able to grow it yourself, we have a greater reverence and love for systems. And I find that people are more willing to eat it. And so that is a little bit of a nutshell of who I am, and my why is really just wanting to heal our community. I find that a lot of our community, specifically our Black and Brown folks, I grew up specifically in an area that was considered a food desert, didn't have access to local grocery stores that had fresh produce. And so we had to drive a little bit further to get it. So I was, getting snacks at 7-Eleven around the corner as a kid, and, and started understanding that some of that is by design. And, I can keep going on and on, but those are little nuggets of why I do what I do, why I chose to be a dietitian, and why I chose to grow food and now teach others how to grow food, and why I'm a farmer.
You said our food system is broken. So in which ways is it broken?
In that it's not nourishing us in the way that nature, God designed it to serve. And just to name a few, we use a lot of chemicals to grow our food. And a lot of folks don't make that connection, because we're not on the farm seeing the sprays being applied to the soil, seeing the insecticides and the chemicals that they use in, by the, hundreds, thousands of gallons to keep pests away that are actually, a part of our natural systems. We have to think, if it's killing pests, if it's killing the little microorganisms that actually are beneficial to not only our land, but our gut health, that's another conversation. What makes us think it's not going to harm us? And I mentioned earlier that it's by design. Part of it's by design is because sometimes these grocery stores choose not to go in certain communities because they don't want to take the risk of investing in certain communities, for whatever reason. They don't think that there's a customer base. They don't feel like it's, they feel like the crime rates are higher, whatever the storytelling exists. They don't feel like it's the best community to invest in. And therefore we have some communities have less access to these nutritious foods. And so it's a broken system that then creates unhealthy communities. If you only have a McDonald's or Jack in the Box and a 7-Eleven in your neighborhood, maybe you have limited transportation, that's what you have access to, and that's what is going to be your food source. And so there's layers, and we need to address it. We need to speak on it, and so that we can we can put pressure on our local elected officials, on our, the organizations, the systems that keep our communities sick and prevent us from having access to the best quality food. Because everybody deserves access to an organic piece of fruit, organic food. We shouldn't have to label healthy food. We should have to label chemical food, not the healthy food. It's a little backwards.
Mm. I have a big yard, and I had a garden, and for many years now I don't have time, but we'll get to that. And every now and then the kids would find bugs in their food, and I would say, well, if the bugs eat it, you should eat it, right?
Yes.
Because if the bugs aren't eating it, then you shouldn't eat it. And yet we have all these chemicals. Like, how will we know what has chemicals and what doesn't? Like, where's a good food source aside from growing it yourself? And we'll talk about how you might be able to accomplish that. But where's some places that you can get good food?
Yes, I want to say I love the statement of, if bugs eat it, it's good for us. Because yes, that's a sign that it's healthy. It doesn't have all the chemicals. If they're still living in that little head of lettuce, that is always a true sign that it's chemical free. But I would say, where do we get those foods? Yes, of course, growing it, but if not everybody has a yard to grow food. So I would say your farmers markets, looking up where folks are growing food in your community. I would also say, unconventional ways too. Maybe you don't have a local farmers market, or but if you are in, I'm in California, we've got lots of farmers markets.
Yeah, we're very lucky in California that the only day it's hard to get fresh fruits and vegetables is Monday.
Yes.
Every other day you can go
There's a
to
market.
any number of, you have a choice of 5 or 6 different places. And then to have a whole conversation. How was this grown? Where is this grown?
Yes.
What were the chemicals? Did you use chemicals? And by and large, I don't even think people use very many chemicals, right? Because things grow very easily. But for our listeners or for our audience that may not be in beautiful southern sunny California, where are some other good outlets?
Yeah.
Or what should they look for in a grocery store?
Yeah, grocery store, but we can even start outside of the grocery store. So farmers markets are limited in your community. Find your local backyard folks who grow food in your community. There's urban farmers, there's community gardens. Let Google be your friend. If you just look up, type in your zip code and type community garden or urban food growers. There are so many collectives that are popping up that have existed for a long time, who are connecting consumers or supporters, I like to use as an alternative type name, to local community ag food systems, urban ag systems. My neighbor, for example, he's got about 6 avocado trees and citrus trees. And, we are gifted with avocados all the time. Can't remember the last time I had to buy an avocado because I've made relationships with my community. And so I would say start there. I'm sure folks have had moments where you're driving through a neighborhood and you see a tree with an abundance of fruit just dripping off of it. And probably more than that, whoever's living in that home can eat. Sometimes people just don't even know where to go to share that fruit. So I've gone as far as just knocking on the door, introducing myself and saying, hey, I've noticed your fruit tree. Have you ever shared, do you have a way to distribute the fruit, or do you ever need help picking? And just introducing myself, and 99% of the time they are more than happy to share. They're actually, have shared that they just haven't had time to reach out to their community. And so I've been able to connect them with not only, community members to help distribute, but also food banks are happy to take the produce.
So from a dietitian's perspective, and when we look at our bodies, how does that seasonality, or how should we reflect that seasonality in our eating if we don't live somewhere that has food all the time?
Eat foods that are in season. They're gonna be more affordable. They're going to be more nutrient dense, which is extremely important because it didn't have to travel as far to get to you As soon
So
as
let's
fruit,
pause on that. I'm sorry to
yep.
interrupt. So the further it's like the nutrients drip away as it travels,
Yes,
right?
and I would say a lot of it, especially vegetables, some fruits,
Mm,
of course. The moment it's harvested, it's starting to break down. Obviously, some fruits and vegetables break down quicker than others, but the longer it takes to get to your belly, you are starting to lose the nutrient density of that fruit. It's better to eat local, to eat a fruit that maybe was harvested within the last 24 hours, 48
mm,
hours, because it's more nutrient dense. It's freshly picked. It's going to be have more vibrancy. It hasn't gone through. I mean, there's things that our food systems implement in order to preserve our foods. For example, tomatoes. We pick
mm,
the tomatoes prior to ripeness because they're more firm. And then what they do is they spray it with some type of, I can't speak on what it is, but it's a type of chemical to ripen them, to like have them change color quickly, but they're not quite ripe inside. So visibly they look ripe. But if you've had a vine ripened tomato in comparison to a grocery store tomato, there's a huge difference in taste. And it's
yeah.
hard to go back. And so that's an example of just how our food systems like to visibly make things look good, but nutrient density differs because of, if it had to travel far to get to you. I would look at how we can preserve food.
Mm,
There's, certainly there's foods that last longer in the winter. Winter squashes, is one of the exceptions of food that maintains its nutrient density. Squashes can last for months. And
mm.
so if you are eating foods like squash, or if you are, again, this is somebody who's maybe a little more ambitious in the kitchen. If you're interested in like fermenting foods or canning foods, those are ways that you can buy things when they're in season and preserve them for the winter season, to still be
And
able
you
to
can
have
freeze
those
them
foods.
too, right?
Freezing is great. Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Freezing actually does not alter the nutritional
Mm,
quality of our foods. Sometimes people think that, but if you freeze it at its prime, when it's harvested, you can, whether you're blanching broccoli and then you freeze it, you can eat it, and you will, and thaw it out and have it for a meal. You are maintaining the nutritional density of that food and can eat it throughout the winter.
how can someone change their behavior? Like I'm a single mom and I don't have and I work at Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the like practical things I can do to change my behavior to ensure that my family and I are eating better?
Yeah, well, one, I would say give yourself grace. We can't
Mm,
change everything overnight, a little bit at a time. Habits
mm,
don't change overnight. So pick one
mm,
thing.
mm,
Um, so farmers market would be a recommendation. If you do go to the grocery store, there's also an opportunity to get to know the story behind the food, because
mm,
farmers still grew that food. So
mm.
labels, food has a label. Pick something that maybe you already have in your kitchen, and look it up, and try to get an understanding of the journey of that food product. You might be pleasantly surprised, or you may say, "Oh, I actually want to
Mm.
shift gears because I'm not really aligned with how this food is grown." Yeah, we host monthly farm circles here at our farm, and we have folks who have never grown anything who come to learn, and folks who steward acres. And it's really beautiful to be in shared space because we're all inspiring each other. So going back to your question, just if you have a desire to learn and just expand, find spaces that where you can meet folks who have been on this journey, because they're always usually willing to share. Go visit a farm.
So tell us about your farm.
So our farm is located in San Bernardino County, Rialto, California, to be specific. We're on a 3/4 of an acre lot. It's a residential property, so we actually
Hmm,
live here, but we also have turned it into a community farm. We're
hmm,
about a year into the project, so we're fairly young still. But to date, we've planted about 25 fruit trees, ranging from stone fruit. So that's your apricots, your nectarines, plums, pluots. We have got a fuyu persimmon. We've got Asian pears. We have jujubes. We are trying to grow as much as we possibly can on the land that we can grow in our zone. We're zone 10A, which gets hot in the summertime. We don't get too many chill days in the winter, but we're committed to trying to cover as much of the land with food, herbs, medicinal plants, foods from the African diaspora, and from all of the various cultures that share the space. Our community members who are from South America, Mexico. We've got epazote growing on the land right now, which is a very, very common popular plant in South America. So just really wanting to elevate food systems. We also have chickens. You may hear them. You may have heard them in the background. The window's open right now, but we have chickens, we have rabbits, and we've got a vegetable section where we're growing a lot of annual vegetables, kale, broccoli, lettuce. We did okra this summer and tomatoes, and really just trying to diversify our food and inviting folks to come and plant and harvest and learn about soil health, learn about composting, and just understand the holistic system and what it takes to grow food in a healthy way.
And so you open up your home to people to come to your backyard and have space in your backyard.
And yes, but our model is a little different than a traditional community farm. Well, there's the community garden model where that model is typically you have a plot and that's your plot that you manage. Ours is more of a collective care. So it's not like, this is my section, I'm going to grow and I'm going to harvest from this section. It's like, you come, you're helping with all that is needed on the land. Some days we might be composting. Some days we're just planting seeds. And when it's time to harvest, we all benefit. And we offer, like, I don't know how to do woodworking. So we've offered woodworking classes. So as we're building the farm, we're inviting the community to come and learn along with us so that we can all, learn new skills and take those skills out into our communities to be able to continue putting them to practice.
So what made you, like, what was the genesis? Like one day you came home and like what was the genesis of the idea?
For about a decade, I've had this dream of having my own farm. And when I say my own, certainly don't desire to do this by myself, but just being the catalyst for creating the space and then inviting community and partners to come. Of course, resources are always a big barrier for sometimes. And so we have I grew up in LA area, Pasadena, Altadena specifically. And we were called to move to the Inland Empire about a year and a half ago, to be close to my sister, who unfortunately lost her husband due to heart failure. She's raising five kids by solo. And so we decided to move close to her to just be a support system.
So you had the devastation in Altadena and the personal devastation of your sister losing her partner.
Yeah, it's been a pretty heavy couple of years.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but we're just leaning into, all of it. Like this is part of life's journey. We're going to have major hiccups along the way and disruptions, but there's a lot of gifts that come through pain and challenges. And this was one of them. We were able to, my sister owns the land, and it was a bare property. It was a bare lot when we got here. The home was here, but it was just blank canvas is what I saw. And I said, we're going to start a community farm here. There's so much potential in this space to bring community, to grow food, to be a food hub. And took us about 6 months to settle. And then we said, let's get going. So we planted our first round of trees. We built garden beds. And it has been nonstop since then.
Wow.
We have community volunteer days almost weekly. I've been able to connect with different community practitioners. So we have free yoga on the farm once a month. Yesterday we had a creative movement class for the community where we stretched ourselves a little bit and kind of danced in community. And it was awkward and fun and very healing all in the same. We've had potlucks, honestly, and the sky's the limit. I want this space to serve in all the ways that the community seas it can serve. And so it's been beautiful. One thing I want to mention is that we partner also with my other sister, Lakeisha, who has a nonprofit called Serve and Lead, and she serves foster youth who have aged
Hmm.
out of the system. We now have an internship program in partnership with her where we're able to train young adults about agriculture and land stewardship. And so
Hmm.
we're deeply in that program, and it's just been beautiful to be able to hold space and have people come and plant who have never planted before, to be able to plant a seed, watch it grow, harvest, and be able to create a meal from what they, the love that they put into the land. It's a gift, and we want to be able to hold space for more of that for anybody who wants to come and be in community with us.
So how is it supported? Is this like your community service where you provide, and I know most people call it resources, but I'm just going to say money because
Keep it
it
real.
takes money,
Yes,
right?
it does.
Real talk,
Yes.
it takes money.
Mhm.
How does that work?
Great question. We have big dreams here, and we are only scratching the surface. We were really blessed with a grant to get started. It was a
Nice.
small grant, but it really helped us build the infrastructure for getting our irrigation going, getting our greenhouse, and some of the kind of foundational items and structure that we need to actually consider ourselves a farm. So that was a huge gift. From there, we've been continuing to apply for grants, and we received one other recently that actually is allowing us to pay those interns that I mentioned, to give them a stipend so that there's, some financial support as they're spending their time stewarding the land. But honestly, through donations, we've been able to, we're actively always receiving and looking for donations to continue sustaining this work. We're in the process of setting up a farm stand. We were able to get funds to set up a farm stand. So we're building that. That will be a way to generate revenue of just developing a sliding scale farm stand. So of course, it's always important for our food, what we're growing, to be accessible to everybody. I do not want that to be a barrier, but some community members can afford to pay it forward. And so making sure that we have that range. So if you can pay on the higher end, what the actual value of it, great. And if cost is a barrier, pay what you can. So we're in the process of really designing and really locking in that model, but grants, donations, having our small events that are donation based, and then this future farm stand. And will hopefully be that sustainable model that can help keep us going. Because all honesty, a lot of the additional resources have been from the work I do off the farm to be able to fund the projects and be able to feed community. That is one of my love languages, is to be able to nourish people. So if I'm making dinner and we have community coming over to help steward, I'm making enough to feed everyone. But also I need to make sure, again, that sustainability piece that is always kept in mind, because I want to make sure that, this can live on even beyond me, as that is the goal. And so we're working on that piece as we speak.
What advice would you have to parents who want to, they may realize my relationship with food isn't ideal, but I want my child's relationship to be better? What would you tell that person?
Exposure, get them out, go visit a farm. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give your children is exposing them to healthy food systems and understanding where food comes from.
We talk about giving this health to children. I also want to say giving health to yourself so your child has you.
Yes.
And I think
yes.
So I'm on this, mad dash, right? I am wholly focused on staying as healthy as I can. I want to die well. I always say that, right?
Yes.
People are always surprised when I'm like, I'm actually almost 55, right?
Incredible.
Because I eat well, I drink water, I try to, avoid and put things in perspective, because I don't want my children to be without their mom.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
so I don't necessarily know if people realize how much closer to peril you put yourself if you don't take care of your physical well-being, your mental
Yeah.
well-being, your physical well-being. You know, God forbid you have a stroke when you're 35 or 45 or even
Yeah.
50.
Yes.
Think of how you curtail the life of someone else when that happens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what keeps me motivated, you know.
Same. Every day we choose to, we have a choice to eat healthy, care for our bodies or not. And that, will continue to build upon whether you are filling the tank with goodness or continuing to chip away and cause harm over time that will show up eventually.
Mm.
And you feel better. It's not even just like eventually things shut down. It's like it shows up in subtle ways that sometimes we're not always present to. If you feel lethargic, if you get chronic headaches, if you've got some digestive issues, all of those are connected to how we care for our bodies. And sometimes folks tend to ignore it because it's like, oh, that's just how it is. If it's a chronic experience, you just
That's
live
just
through
how
it.
I feel.
Yeah, pay attention to your body, or your body is telling you something is off. It's giving you
Yeah.
early signs. And oftentimes dehydration, just nutrient deficiencies, just exposure to too many fatty foods, whatever it might be. Take a poll. One thing I like to tell people, write down what you've eaten in the last 3 days. And sometimes that's an eye opener. If you're like, whoa, I actually haven't had a single vegetable in 3 days, or maybe you only had one glass of water, that
Mm.
was a tale. Sometimes that is enough to say, oh, I need to do better. If you just
Mm.
record what you ate in the last 3 days, and it might just allow for you to say, okay, I've got to make some tweaks. And nobody wants to be told what they can't have. So focus on what you can have. Okay, I'm going to eat an apple today. I'm going to eat an extra piece of fruit, and that'll start to shift and make and have you phase out the unhealthier foods. Bring in more of the healthy stuff. Before you grab that soda, have a glass of water. You probably won't want that soda anymore, or you'll drink less of the soda.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I can say don't drink these things, but we all know what we should and shouldn't have. It's
Yeah.
not really rocket science, but it's just the behavior changes, the habit changes. So just start to bring in the healthier foods and you'll phase out. You won't want the junk food anymore.
Yeah.
Eat the apple before you grab the chocolate or the candy or the ice cream. You might still want it, but you won't have as much room to eat a whole, double scoop ice cream. Maybe you'll just have, a half a scoop. And it'll still bring you satiety, but you're bringing in more nutrients with that piece of fruit that still has the sweetness. Start with nature's candy first. Other hat that I wear is soil restoration after the fire, because there were a lot of land stewards in Altadena, folks who grew food, and the homes, the home particulates brought a lot of toxins to the land. And so I'm actively leading a group to do bioremediation, essentially using plants and natural material to remove those toxic metals, the contaminants from the soil, so that our community can return back to healthy soil.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell everybody where they can reach you and how they can get in touch if they want to help and support your cause?
Beautiful. So we are fairly new. So right now we have an Instagram. It's Sandalwood Farm _IE for Inland Empire. So that's currently where we share our programming and photos, what we're up to. Our website's coming soon. We're actively building that now. So yeah, keep up with us there. And we would love to have you come visit. We definitely are an open space for community. So it's built by community, it's for community. And we would love to have you join us at a next gathering.
Well, this has been really eye-opening and really refreshing to hear about you and the work that you do. So I'm just really appreciative that you made time to chat with me today.
Of course. My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, and really thank you for all that you're doing, because it's interconnected.
Yes.
You are nourishing and educating our next generation and the parents, which is beautiful. Bringing me on as a farmer to make sure that the knowledge the journey that they're on is very holistic. And so thank you. Thank you for this partnership and all that you're doing to care for a community.
Thanks.
If you like what you heard, or even if you have some feedback, put a comment in our comment section. Be sure to like our page and make sure that you subscribe so that you can hear when the next video comes out. Thanks so much again for joining us.